Hi, this is Brad Linder, and I'm here with something called the Wiipad, which is actually a rebranded version of the HiPad M701 tablet. It looks very similar in a lot of ways to something like a Samsung Galaxy Tab, or really more like an oversized iPod Touch. You can see on the front that there's just sort of a single button here down on the bottom. It's a 7-inch tablet. It runs Google Android. And it's pretty thin. It's not quite as thin as they would lead you to believe, because you can see there's sort of a little curvature down here towards the bottom that makes it a little bit thicker than just the sides alone. But overall, it weighs just about half a pound. It's got a 7-inch diagonal display, nice and large. In terms of screen resolution, it's actually 800 by 480 pixels, which is very similar to what you would get from, say, an Android smartphone, but it's a larger display, which means that the text is generally going to be a little bit larger. It's got a couple of things that I really do like, especially considering it's an under $200 tablet. In fact, when I got this, it was selling for about $190. Now I think it's on sale for about $150, and so it's about as cheap as an Augen GenTouch78, but it has an accelerometer or a G sensor so that the screen rotates, although it's being a little stubborn right now. Okay, let's try opening a web browser and see if we can get the screen to rotate. So you see it's got automatic screen rotation, which is something that you don't get from some other cheap Android tablets. And it has access to the Google Android market. And I believe the company behind this sort of cheated their way to this. Since it doesn't have 3G capabilities, can't make phone calls, it's not the sort of thing that normally would have full market access, but I have downloaded and installed a number of applications using it, and I think it's because if you look through the settings, there's sort of a fake 3G account with China Telecom. So even though I'm in the US, it says that it's linked to China Telecom, and in fact when you get to the lock screen, see if I can get the lock screen to come up here. It says El Telo Loco. Now that said, so we just went ahead and installed the Winamp application, we downloaded it, and it should open here. So it can actually run a lot of different applications. It runs Google Android. Google Android 2.1, so it can run any, most apps that run on Android 2.1. It's got a resistive touchscreen display, which means that it's not really designed for fingertip input, but rather for stylus or a fingernail. But you can get things to run by tapping on them with your thumb. It's just not a perfect solution. So for instance, if I go to the web browser, and I want to enter a URL, it should bring up the keyboard. And if I tap with my fingertips, it works pretty well. With my thumbs, they're a little bit large for the key size, so you can do it, but you might have more of an opportunity to accidentally hit the wrong letter. So I don't find that it's quite as good as some other devices with capacitive displays for two-finger typing, but it works pretty well for one-finger tapping. So I wouldn't necessarily want to write long emails or a book or something on here, but it works pretty well if you just want to enter URLs and do some web browsing. And as you can see, websites look pretty good. So this is the mobile version of Liliputing. We can also go to a website like the New York Times. And you've got the full website there. Now again, the screen resolution is no greater than what you would get on a typical Android phone with a high-resolution screen, so you're going to have to zoom in pretty tight to actually be able to read the text here, but it works. And you can see it also even supports multi-touch, although it's a limited implementation of multi-touch here. It's not very fast, and you, like I said, are better off using your nails, but you can also double tap to zoom. So there's a quick look at the web browser. Now, there are a couple of things that are kind of annoying about this. First of all, there aren't a lot of buttons. This button on the front you might think is the home button, because that's the function it would serve on something like an iPhone, but here it actually turns the screen on and off. On the side of the device, there's a little dial that seems almost like it should be a volume button. It's a rocker for up and down here, but in fact one is the back button and the other is the settings button. So there is no home button. You can turn the screen on or off, but if I want to exit the browser and return to it at a later date or a later time, it's actually pretty hard to do because I have to sort of hit the back button repeatedly until I exit, and then that web page that I had loaded is now going to be gone because back from the browser first takes you to the previous page and then exits the browser. I downloaded an updated firmware that sort of solves this problem by giving you a home button that shows up here in the status bar. There's also volume buttons in the status bar for increasing and decreasing the volume. But some applications launch in full screen, and if you're in full screen mode, then you're not going to be able to hit the home button. So, for example, let's launch a game. Well, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the battery life, which is really not very good. That button turns on and off the screen, as I mentioned. There's a switch on the bottom for actually powering the device on and off altogether. And when the device is powered... This is kind of loud. When the device is powered all the way up, it uses energy at a pretty rapid rate and kills the battery pretty quickly. So as you can see, Angry Birds runs pretty well, but if I want to exit Angry Birds, there's no home button, because there's no status bar at the top. So I have to hit the back button repeatedly until I'm gone, and completely quit the game, instead of just quickly switching from one area to another. This battery status meter is also problematic, because up here a minute ago it was showing that I had 60% full battery, now I'm at 10%, and it's going to turn itself off pretty soon. So, you know, it's a little bit quirky. The battery's not great, the buttons aren't great, the resistive touchscreen is not great. That said, it has an accelerometer, it has full Android market access, and overall it's got a nice feel to it. It's a 7-inch device that's good for reading the web, reading ebooks, playing some games. Some other games, I noticed Robo Defense, I don't think I have time to show you right now, was a little bit slow on this. So whereas Angry Birds runs perfectly well, Robo Defense just feels a little bit sluggish. 3D games like Pocket Legends I tried just doesn't even play at all. So you know, you get what you pay for in some respects, but much better experience than some other devices like the Augen GenTouch78 tablet, which I've shown you previously on this YouTube channel and on Liliputing.com. The Augen GenTouch78 doesn't support multi-touch, doesn't have automatic screen rotation, and its buttons are all on the back, making them kind of hard to feel properly, and no Android market access. So there you go. That's a quick video review of the Wiipad Slim Plus Android tablet. For a more detailed review, you can go to Liliputing.com.